Hello there, my name is Samantha Jayne and welcome to the Angel and Exorcist channel. If you're new to this channel, don't forget to hit like, subscribe and ring that all important bell. I'm Samantha Jayne, as I say, and I am a psychic medium.
So joining us today is Leo Bonomo, who is a psychic medium, but we are actually here to talk about physical mediumship. Now, both of you are physical mediums. So what is a physical medium?
And physical mediumship really is when spirit manifests in particular ways. So they would appear in a room, and I know that sounds very ghost-like and that, but it isn't that, is it?
No.
It's a very different thing. So spirit will appear, they will move objects, sometimes transport objects, which is called apporting, and they'll bring objects from elsewhere, sometimes from spirit, sometimes from around the world, and drop them into the circle. So you can also get direct voice, which is physical mediumship as well.
Okay.
And I was blessed to have sat with a gentleman called Leslie Flint, and he was, I think, and still is, the world's greatest direct voice medium. And when I sat with him, the voices would actually appear 6 or 7 inches under the ceiling. So you could have intelligent conversations with people as we are.
Wow, fantastic.
And, yeah, it was sort of Q&A, and you learned so much.
Loads of recordings of that, isn't there, available actually?
Yeah, Leslie recorded over 6,000 when he was alive. Some of those have deteriorated because he started in the late 40s and carried on. Some of them are beautifully clear and very entertaining because people came, you know, with their personalities, and if they were funny in life. And I've heard quite a few. I've heard probably about 200 altogether, and some of them are just so touching, but they're also very different. It seems the passage from this life to the next and landing in the next life is not the same for everyone.
No.
So there is that difference there. So physical mediumship is fascinating.
Excellent. Now, you two know each other, so how do you guys know each other?
We met through a con, an American con.
I was trying to think then. Yeah.
Sorry, you were conned, and that's how you met.
Yeah, we did. We were met through an American con artist, basically. Didn't we?
Yeah.
I can't remember his name, and I wouldn't share it anyway. So. But he claimed to be being a researcher into physical mediumship. Do you remember?
That's right.
And he wanted people to form circles, which we did. We then came to realise that he was trying to debunk us all. And we stepped back and went, see you later. But we carried on because we were getting really quite good stuff going on. Yeah. And he was saying, no. And it was like, you don't know anything about medium. It became very clear, didn't it?
Yeah.
So yeah, that was how we met.
Okay, so a lot of people get this confused between sort of regular mediumship and the physical mediumship. So
yeah.
where is the dividing line here?
And how it's experienced, I would say.
Yeah, I would say in how it's experienced. It is, most mediumship, if we categorise it for the public, is mental mediumship. So you'll go and you'll sit with someone, or you'll go to a demonstration, and on occasions light trance would come into it. I tend to do talks, and that's influenced. So you've got that side of it, but the physical mediumship, actually it's on a very different level, isn't it? A completely different level. And I find that many people have not heard of physical mediumship. They may have heard of trance or overshadowing, which is a light version. They may have heard of those, but most people haven't. And it's a wonderful form of mediumship.
Why do you think it's not as well known as, I put a search into the internet, and it didn't come up. If you put physical mediumship into a search engine, it just comes up as mediumship.
Well, it's interesting that you asked that, because I think there are a couple of reasons for that. Physical mediumship actually started in the light, and that used to manifest. And I have read accounts of people in Africa during the day having physical mediumship experiences. So their ancestors would appear in daylight and walk around. But as it became popular during the Victorian era, then people wanted more and more. And for some reason, some found it easier to do in the dark, and it's more to do with the energies, isn't it? And that kind of thing. And then what happened was, of course, it became popular and there aren't enough mediums to go around, so you start to get the frauds in, which kind of corrupted the whole thing. And if you're sitting in darkness pulling wires and that kind of thing, it's a lot easier. So I think people associate that with maybe the more fraudulent side of mediumship.
Okay, so is it a case of, with physical mediumship, you are actually bringing objects in via spirit, opposed to you're getting messages from spirit to give to other people?
It can be both. It can be both.
But it's more external, isn't it?
It's more external.
So normal mediumship, all the communication goes on within the medium. That's how I would say it. Physical mediumship, it almost all goes on external to the medium.
Right.
And you get physical representation. So, for example, where you can see behind me on the wall is kids' drawings of matchstick men drawings.
Wow. Okay.
They were there, how can I word it? There energetically that showed on camera, but we weren't aware of.
So are you talking a form of ectoplasm?
Yeah.
Okay, so is that what ectoplasm is? You were saying about the drawings that appear in physical form?
Ectoplasm comes out of the mouth of the medium. Would you agree with that?
All the orifices, really.
Some we
if
don't
we're being
talk
polite.
No. Skip that one.
If you actually look for ectoplasm in the body, it isn't there, but it's created in the pancreas. And it's various chemicals that are mixed and then form. And then they tend to be mixed by spirit, but you have to have an excess of these chemicals. And then it flows, and they use that to create all kinds of things, including themselves, don't they?
Yeah, so like I work as a transfiguration medium.
Right.
So what happens when I'm doing that is it comes out of my mouth and nose. This is my understanding, obviously I'm sat in the experience. Out of my mouth and nose, forms in front of my face, and spirits show their faces.
Right. So this is
and they look around the room and do all sorts of things.
So this is it's a physical
representation of spirit, rather than having a sense of spirit. So I can describe it. Instead of the people watching sensing spirit and things like that, they actually physically see.
They see them.
Yeah.
Wow.
So spirit create a mask out of ectoplasm and then impress their face into it, so you can see. So it's like a living mask, isn't it? So you can see them talking and the mouth's moving.
Yeah.
So
and the faces can change.
So between that and, if you like the transfiguration and trance, again, you have to forgive me because I don't understand this level of it. Where is the difference between like a trans medium and transfiguration?
Transfiguration is definitely more physical, because spirit are using the ectoplasm to physically form something. With the trans, it's as much a mental thing as a physical thing, because then they are taking over your body and using your body and mind.
Right. So I understand that in my language to be that trance is spiritual based, as in communication level from them to within you, and transfiguration is internal, if you like, ectoplasm created by spirit, which then is physical. So one is physical and one is mental. Is that what you're saying?
It's like everything we do.
It's presented, isn't it?
Yeah, it's how it's presented. Everything we do, whether it's clairvoyance or whatever, is all on a sliding scale, and that depends partly on how experienced somebody is, but it's partly on how much we can be used as well. So, you know, if you're quite limited, then spirit can only use you to a certain degree. So everything's on a sliding level.
That's why there's not a lot of people can do it.
Yeah,
Right.
Because
yeah,
it takes so much out of you
yeah.
to do it.
How did you get into, or how did you were aware of?
I just went into it one day mid-session.
So it was a natural ability.
Yeah.
And what about you, Leo?
With myself, in one sense, I had the most brilliant childhood because these things were happening all the time. People physically appeared, they would speak to me. And one time I was trying to get off to sleep, I was about 8, and a small white hand, about 6 inches off the floor, disembodied, just pushed the door open. And to me, it was just, nothing scary. It was just like, oh my God, that's beautiful.
I would have been out
Show
of there.
me more.
I would have been out of there.
You know, so I had lots of those kinds of experiences, and also being overshadowed at one point. But then that became much more physical. And the nice thing about that, although it may not sound nice, is my guides were allowing me to sense for myself when something wasn't right. And so this gentleman used to take over, and it seemed quite normal, but as it went on over the months, I noticed one of my arms was screwing up, and there was something odd going on.
Right.
And I tried to sense what it was, and I'm slightly shorter now because I'm older, so I've only ever been 5'8" at my top, and one day I decided to see, get some evidence. So this gentleman took over, and I put a knife, my dad wasn't pleased, across part of the doorpost, and it was 6'1". So that was quite tense. So that convinced me something's definitely going on, and it started not to feel right. So what I did, I thought, animals are very sensitive, aren't they?
Yeah.
So I thought, next time he takes over, great, I'll go find the cat. And it happened, and I opened my bedroom door, and the cat was sitting on the landing, and it just looked, and its back arched, and we had, what's that wallpaper with the wood in? Wood chip.
Yeah.
And it literally ran straight up the wall. So I thought, maybe not good. Could we shut the door and got rid of it, and was shown how to get rid of it. So there were lots of experiences like that where they helped me, but they allowed physical things to happen.
So this entity or spirit, whatever you want to call it, entered your body and you grew.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's not something I was that aware of, but I thought, what can I do to check? But I did feel bigger.
We're only energy, so we change form.
So you've experienced the same thing?
Yeah.
So when you, for example, when you do your work, you can...
Do you know, but do you know, you're talking about childhood. When I was a child, you think back, oh my God. I used to amuse myself in the bedroom by sitting and looking in the mirror and watching the faces. Watching this old lady would appear. I'd watch her look at me.
That must be kind of freaky.
No, it wasn't. That's what I look back and think, why did you not think that wasn't right? But I didn't, I just was fascinated. And I used to just watch her.
I think when you're introduced to spirit at that age, it is natural. There's a natural balance. So as a generality, up to about the age of 6, we're more connected to spirit than we are to the world. But there has to come a flip of that balance so that we become more grounded, because this is where we need to be and learn the lessons. So I think when you get it very young, it is just natural. You know, I mean, obviously sometimes children do have bad experiences, but I think if you're going to be a medium, and that's part of the experience of being here, isn't it?
The question I'd like to ask both of you is, now obviously I do exorcisms and I deal with possession. If spirit you are allowing spirit to come into you and present themselves through you, what is the difference between that and a possession? Because to me, that they seem very similar.
They are, aren't they? They are very similar.
We choose who we let in.
Right.
Because we know, as much as we ever know what we're doing. As in, we're aware enough of our own energy space, our own emotion state to know, like Leo's saying, when something isn't right, for us to go, oi. But we also work so closely with the gut. We say I mean, it's the royal I. We're just the puppet in the front, let's be honest.
Yeah.
It's our spirit teams that are really doing the work.
So Leo, is there an experience that you've had with physical mediumship that is stuck in your mind to tell the viewers?
Yeah, there was that one originally, which has always stuck in my mind because of the change in size. I mean, I was a child when that happened, so nowhere near 5'8". But sat with David Thompson and various other people. And David Thompson's actually quite a small man, isn't he? He's not very tall and he's got small hands. He's a physical medium.
Right.
And I went to see him the first time, and his guide William, he has to be 7 foot tall. Because when you're sitting down, you're aware of looking up at that angle, because you're directing your attention to the voice. And William said to me, you can't touch a physical medium and you can't touch spirit that come unless they give permission, because they're ready for the change in energy. Because if you touch one out of sync, if you like, the worst it can do is kill a medium, but they can get intense burns through the ectoplasm.
Right, so you're talking about physical touch.
Yeah.
Now, would that be if anybody was near you and they went to touch you, it would cause problem, or would it?
If you were the medium.
Or if it was you?
No, if you're within the circle, then you are participating in a different way. So your energy is lent. But it doesn't affect you. So, you know, we could touch each other, and quite often you all hold hands, don't you?
Yeah.
So it's not that kind of thing.
Okay.
But William asked if he could touch me to give me proof, and he's a massive man. And what he did was, he was actually standing behind me. Now, I had my back to the wall. So he was part through the wall, and his thumb touched my lower lobe, and his index finger touched my upper lobe, massive hand, and he gave my head a gentle squeeze. And that is something that will always stick with me.
Sam, is there been a point of your physical medium career that is one point that has really sort of stuck in your mind?
I've seen the gift of bringing through loved ones who've passed in that form, personally, because I can remember sitting in a normal circle, and my mum was visiting and she was sat in that circle, and my great-grand decided to put in an appearance.
Wow.
I went under into full trance, if you want to call it that, and then came up, then the mask come out, her face appeared, and my mum was just sobbing, and she was absolutely speechless.
Wow.
So, because she saw her gran and she had so much she wanted to say to them, but as always, she had a brain fart moment, and because that's what we do in that moment, because that wasn't planned. There is, again, I think it's beautiful, but it's you don't see a lot of it because it takes so much energy from the human to do. We can be knocked out for 48 hours after doing it.
So how do you prepare for physical mediumship? Say that you know that you're going to do a physical mediumship session. How would you prepare for that? I'll go to Leo first.
I tend not to do physical mediumship, but when I've sat with Sam, you prepare the space an awful lot, don't you? Yeah. Quite often when we used to go, you could hear drums. And the first time I thought Sam had a backing track, but it wasn't.
Can you imagine?
So and Sam said, "Oh, that's the Indian guides that are," and I thought that
really
is fantastic.
Right.
Yeah,
it's really ceremonial what goes on.
So they prepare the room, the energies. And just, my guys just said sanctify. They kind of sanctify the space and cleanse it. Sometimes when you go to physical mediumship demonstrations, everything has to be hoovered, cleaned, because you can't have anything in there which could be made negative.
It's a bit like Spider-Man, how Spider-Man came about when the spider crawled in, and then he became the Spider-Man. We don't want any of that.
No, we don't. No.
Don't want a feather coming in and moving through a chicken.
No.
No one wants to watch a chicken.
Enough chickens in the way. Right. The other thing I want to ask, especially you, Sam, because you work a lot on this level. You introduced me to a guy called Shaman Durek.
Yeah.
And on one of his videos, you see his physical form change.
Yeah.
Even to the voice where he brings in several Indian guides. It is incredible, and he is not in control of the drum that he's banging. That's not him doing that.
No.
That voice isn't
him.
him.
That his voice changes.
It's totally. I mean, that is probably the first real experience, and even though it was on the screen, it really impacted me. So to see it real life must be an amazing experience, and to actually, like you guys, to be able to do it. Wow, what a gift that is.
Yeah.
Incredible.
I do feel blessed. Do you feel blessed to be able to have this experience?
And you know, to sit in that energy is quite something as well, because the energy can be extremely intense, can't it?
Yeah.
You know, we had some wonderful seances at your house.
Yeah, and we sit in blue light. We don't sit in the dark.
Right.
We sit in blue light.
Why do you sit in blue light?
We got told to.
That's it.
Next question, Paul. Why do you use blue light as opposed to white light?
It's the vibration of the light, and it helps to create that energy. So if you've got something which is literally filling the room on that particular vibration, lots of mediums use red lights as well. Yeah. And I teach in a red light because it's very conducive to the energies flowing. But blue light is now something that Spirit are working on more because it allows you to see more.
Okay.
So it's conducive in that way as well.
Wow. So how do you create blue light?
We were just instructed to get a blue light bulb.
So you're talking physical
Literally.
blue light,
Physical
we
blue.
would like the room
Yeah.
not
blue.
spiritual.
Yeah.
No,
yeah.
we would literally like the room blue, because blue,
right.
that blue vibration is the angelic realm, operates on the blue, so that's part of it.
Yeah. And it's just easier to see, isn't it?
Yeah, it's better than
You can
sit in
see
the
each
dark.
other.
Sit in the dark.
Sit in the dark.
You know, no one's mucking about because they're
I was
bored.
going to say, use a bit like.
No strings going on here.
So this isn't just limited to
No.
earthbound spirits, if you like.
No, not at all.
What about?
Which is why we have to prepare the space, you see.
I see.
Because this earth is the heaviest vibration, so we have to change the vibration of the space we're going to work in, because otherwise they can't come down because it's too heavy
Right. Okay.
for their energy field to form.
So, okay. So let's turn this on its head. Let's take elemental energies.
Yeah.
Okay. Is elemental energy, would you be able to bring the elemental energy into you and put that through as physical mediumship, or is it something
That's an
different?
interesting question. I don't know. I've got to be honest.
Define elemental.
Elemental, earth
Everyone
energy,
doesn't
water
understand.
energy, wind energy.
I bring all that energy into my healing work.
But so it will come through you.
Yeah.
So it's a form of physical mediumship then, I would imagine.
My healing work's gone into almost a physical
So not
mediumship
only do you
experience.
deal with spiritual, you're dealing with earthbound energies, which again, that's incredible. What an incredible power. So again, I'm in awe of this. This is great. Talk me through a daily routine. Would they come to you and say, could you do some physical mediumship for me?
For me, no.
Because you go, you sit, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm. I think it's hard to describe it really. I'm a mental medium, but I do slip into trance very easily. I allow different guides to come in. So when I was teaching for just over 25 years on and off, and when the students would arrive, unless Spirit had said, we're going to read flowers next week, bring flowers in, I would never know what was going on. So we'd sit down, my guides would take over and they'd say, right, we're going to talk tonight maybe about healing or colour. And I have this very loose arrangement, so that if there is a guide in spirit that is very interested perhaps in colour healing, he would step into my body and he would take the class. And so when I work, I never remember anything I do. It's very rare, and if I do, it's for me to learn, because I learn something every day. I mean, we do, don't
Yeah,
we?
it's never ending.
Or to teach my students.
So he's a channel tutor.
So I saw you nodding in agreement there with him. So have you experienced the same kind of thing?
For me, the physical mediumship aspect is, I don't do sittings at the moment for one-to-one transfiguration. I do it sometimes when specifically asked. But for me, what happens now is it's actually become part of my healing work.
Right. Okay.
So I am having to create the space. As my client is lying there, I create what I call the holy space. I do call it a holy space. And to then bring in and channel through whoever needs to come forward and do the work.
So Leo, obviously you were talking about the physical element of this, and things allowing to come into you. Is there an element of danger of this, and how do you protect yourself?
Initially I was protected very strongly by my guides, but you go through routines, and what I tend to do very, very briefly is to open up the chakras, and flood myself with brilliant white light, and it tends to cleanse everything. You can use that to heal as well. So if you're meant to be healed, then it will take care of it, because sometimes there are experiences where you have to live a life being ill. So I cleanse myself with brilliant white light, and you do need to say prayers, and you do need to ask for protection. It's very, very important, because you can get to the stage where perhaps somebody comes in that initially seems okay and can be very pushy, and they won't leave.
Right. So obviously the job you do is quite demanding. So how does that impact your daily life? So for example, can you turn this ability on? Can you turn it off?
You learn to turn it off. You have to have control, because otherwise, the way that I work, I get energy from it, and I've done workshops with people, and they've oh, I'm exhausted now. I think, you can't be working right.
No.
So there is that aspect of it, but you need to be firm with spirit as well, and say, this is my rest time. Because you don't want to be sitting at a meal in a restaurant and Harry comes through and says, oh, you need to tell Martha,
Right.
watch how she's walking, on table 4, So you have to have that control. And if you think about it, energy-wise, we're like batteries, and you need to conserve that energy. Some people do claim, don't they, to be just running 100% on energy, and they're open all the time.
That's not healthy.
It's not healthy.
I guess you two were both saying earlier on about the mental health aspect of it, and I would imagine if you're open all the time, that is going to put you in a vulnerable state of being open to mental health problems.
I suppose the nearest thing I could equate that with is that if you're like that, you're living on your nerves all the time.
Right.
And you get to a point where you're physically as well as mentally exhausted, and that's what can become dangerous.
Because I do know mediums who've literally stopped their work for 6 months, possibly even 2 years. I've known mediums that have given up. Is that kind of so they've reached burnout because they're constantly open?
Yeah.
Constantly open or constantly working. There are some lines psychic lines which drive people very hard, and they're doing 20, 25 readings a day, and that's okay. But if, like us, normal work has been taken away, you have to conserve what you've got, because once you burn out, you've got to look for other work, because
it's like everything, you've got to know your levels, isn't it?
You've got to know your levels, so you have to be careful with it, and conserve energy. One thing I didn't mention before really about physical mediumship. Physical mediumship, from sort of trance upwards, it shortens lives, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, and you find a lot of mediums are overweight. Some are underweight.
Suck it in.
Most of them. I can't suck mine in. It just doesn't go any further.
I'll just sit
That's
like
it.
this
Yeah,
through the
beautiful.
show. There we go. We're fine. We've got it covered.
I don't think anybody knows. But yeah, so
Just so they know each other really well. She's not being cheeky.
So it shortens lives. Mental mediumship less so, but it's because of the energies that you use, and that are used through you, with you. That's something that skeptics kind of don't get. So, well, you're making loads of money, which of course we don't. And they say, you're just faking it. But if you understood that And of course, none of us are afraid of passing because we're connected to spirit all the time. We know what it's like. But if you think about it, you know, you're not making a lot of money. It shortens your life. Now, from the skeptic's point of view, what the hell are you doing it for? You know, you're not making money and you're going to kill yourself if they don't believe.
Leo, obviously you do your radio show, you do your platform mediumship, you do your physical mediumship. How did this all come about? Where did this journey start for you?
It started when I was 2 and seeing my first spirit. And to me, that just seemed normal. And I was walking between my mum and dad, and we were actually passing a graveyard. And we lived close to Manor Park, and there's Manor Park Cemetery, and we'd seen some relatives, and we were walking just around this gentle curve, and I sensed that there was someone behind us. So I turned round and I saw this mist over the pavement, and a gentleman horizontally came through and stood up.
Ah.
To me, that was completely normal. But I was staring at him, so my dad said, who are you looking at? So I said, there's a funny man behind us. So we've all looked round, not seen anything, turned back, and I'm thinking, that's a bit odd. Turned round, could see him again. Now, the fact that he appeared that way didn't faze me at all. He was dressed as a Victorian. That's why he seemed to me to be a bit strange. There was, it's just really just built upon that, and so many different experiences. You know, I was levitated as I was young, saw spirit enter, form, we'd have chats, they would help me initially astral project, which is the astral body coming out of the physical body. So there were so many experiences. And as is quite common, as you begin to develop, you also get prophecy, don't you? So you see things. So I knew about plane crashes that were going to happen, and just took all that in my stride. And when I was about just coming up for 11, the astral projection stopped. So, and that was because I was approaching puberty. You're sensitive enough anyway without all that happening. So that calved for a while, and then I kept getting pushed by spirit to, you need to do something. And I was doing normal jobs, and I said, well, you have to prove to me that this is real, this is what you want me to do, because this is life-changing. And a gentleman I didn't know existed, but a lovely gentleman called Robert Brown came to me in a dream, and he explained who he was, and he said, you need to go to the Spiritualist Association of Great Britain, the SAGB, didn't know it existed, and you need to speak to a lady called Jerry March and train. So I thought, this is, you know, I'll find out. Found out the SAGB existed, spoke to them. They had a Jerry March who was a teacher. I thought, great. So that was the first real, you need to be doing this. This is why you're here. You need to be doing it. And I trained for about 8.5 years, and fascinating time, learned so much. I was actually the first student there to do private sittings,
right,
which I was very pleased, you know, to do. And so that became, that's where I started to do church demonstrations, and they went really well. I was doing church demonstrations quite often, twice a week, in a wide area. And then I got to a stage in life where I had to be doing this full time, and I was successful. And very rare I got sacked. I tended to walk away from jobs, but I started losing jobs, and in a bit of a twist, this might sound familiar, might it?
It's ringing true.
They are buggers.
Yeah, and in a twist, I started to lose my health. So I then couldn't. I developed fibromyalgia through various things, and then couldn't work. So it's like, what do? I need to earn. Bills still come in, and so I started to read on psychic lines, and that became then my full-time work. I've done a variety of different jobs, and before doing this one, I'd actually done 47.
Sorry, how many?
47.
47.
Which sounds, if you go with the CV,
I thought I had a lot of jobs.
and that's important for mediumships, but to sort of try and make that sound better than it is. I was a goldsmith for 18 years, making jewellery in Hatton Garden. I spent 9 years paying claims with a very nice insurance company that then got taken over. I spent another 10 years working in various offices and retraining computer work.
He's older than he looks. You
and
won't
that,
miss
yeah.
out yet.
I'm 64. I don't feel a day over 100 at the moment. But the wonderful thing with mediumship is you go into all these different areas and it helps the mediumship.
Absolutely.
Because spirit will use your
It's called Earth
experiences.
School.
Absolutely. So for example, if somebody comes through that was a jeweller, then I've got the physical jewellery experience to understand exactly what he's talking about. And if I'm speaking to another jeweller, they've got it. But that's all subconscious. It isn't my thinking, I used to do that, because that just interferes with the link. So spirit use it. So all our experiences they use.
Well, you're only here once as you.
As us, absolutely.
So you might as well enjoy it.
Yeah, try. Yeah, definitely.
Leo, thank you very much.
It's been my privilege. Bless you both. Thank you.
Okay, so that is the end of the show. Thank you very much for joining us. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that all-important bell, and we will see you on the next episode of The Angel and the Exorcist.